Good evening, and we welcome you to Kolkata Center for Creativity. Before start, I would like to introduce our center. It is a multidisciplinary interactive art center located in Kolkata. As a cultural organization, KCC considers environment-friendly sustainability as one of its primary responsibility. To endorse and develop sustainability, we often organize series of programs, exhibitions, seminars, and performances under Indigenous wisdom. These help us to develop better understanding and interpretation of societal aspects in an interactive way. We have today Indigenous Wisdom Session 3. Today's conversation will be the cultural life of Wancho tribal community of Arunachal Pradesh and as well as their work through experimental animations. We have two distinguished invited speakers who would enrich us with their knowledge regarding this field. I would like to introduce the speakers of today's program to the audience. Tara Purnima Villiers Douglas is a co-founder and secretary of the Adivasi Art Trust and a trustee of the Trust for Tribal Art Culture and Knowledge. She is formally associated with the Department of Anthropology, Northeastern Hill University in Shillong. She organized the first tribal animation film festival to take place in Northeast India. Tara completed a professional doctorate with her practice-led research titled Tales of the Tribes Animation as a Tool for Indigenous Representation from the University of UK. Next, Mr. Jatwang Wangsa is currently employed as a school teacher and headmaster of Government Middle School, Khamu and Noku. Tara Douglas and Jatwang Wangsa and his team to produce a bilingual book in English on Wancho folktales. Now I like to invite Ms. Reena Dewan, Director, Kolkata Center for Creativity, to moderate this session. She is President of ICOM India, Board Member of ICOM Intercom. Ms. Dewan can most rightly be identified as a committed art administrator and leader who elevated her work to a level of artistry effortlessly for multidisciplinary and applied art. She has been spearheading many projects in KCC to promote research and development of different disciplines of art that leads to a volumetric and qualitative impact not only in the art field but to the society and young artists and performers. She has received three prestigious fellowships: Australia Council's International Leadership Program, Art Think South Asia, International Society for Performing Arts USA, and of Emerging Scholar Award from Ground Research Networks. She has presented papers on travel grants in museum conferences on various international platforms that gives her vision an immediate global perspective. Over to you, Reena ma'am.
Thank you so much, Moshumi,
Thank you, ma'am.
and a very, very warm welcome to you, Tara and Jatwang. It is a delight to have you today finally with us. And we do understand when we say that internet is connecting us, but at the same time, how the unavailability of good internet keeps the community not so connected with all of us. We realized while organizing this program, and Jatwang really made an effort to come to his district today and be able to communicate with us and tell us, and he's wonderfully dressed, and so is Tara. So I hope you all will enjoy today's conversation as I am looking forward to it. Jatwang, I'll start with
this
you.
net is not good, huh?
Jatwang, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes, good. So I'll start with you. We would like to know a bit about the tribe. So what is the origin of Wancho tribe and how old are they?
Wancho. Okay,
Yes.
thank you, everybody. Again, my name is Jatwang Wangsa. I belong to Wancho tribe, which is situated in the northeastern part of the India, and in Arunachal Pradesh, there is one district called Longding, and the Longding borders with Myanmar and Nagaland state as well. So, as I have been told by my fellow elders or even my aged people, They said that we came somewhere from Tang like that, Tang clan. We came from all the way from the Tang clan, and right now there is one name Tangnu in Nagaland. But how far it is true, we have to do research on that. So Wancho has two different uh, sects or sect. One is Tang, and another is Sang. And Tang clan resides in the upper Wancho belt, upper area, which consists more than 20 villages. And the Sang clan resides in the lower Wancho belt, which also consists a similar number of villages. So, as per records, as we find in some books and research books, we may be a Tibeto-Burman stock. Wancho maybe belongs to Tibeto-Burman stock, but so far there has not been any research, authentic research done by the locals in a proper manner. So I think there are a lot more to do. Lot more research has to be done on Wancho, not only on history. There are many things like food habits, festivals, local traditional attire, and many rituals and customs as well. So I think that one day many youngsters, many scholars will come up and do research in the Wancho belt.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Jatwang, for this lovely answer. And it's actually interesting that even the origin can be found more deeply than what people know right now. So you have already touched upon my second question. So I know it is easy said than explained, because it is a lot to say. But if you can little bit tell us about what did Wancho's living culture looks like, their eating habit or clothing or jewelry, and what about their marriage traditions?
Regarding food habits, it is purely organic food habits, and the food habits which are available found in Wanchos are mainly maize, millet. There are different kinds of millets, not only one type of millet. There are different species, different kinds. At least millet has 6 category of millet there, and among that millets, foxtail millet is one of the major stable food for Wanchos, and another thing is maize. Wanchos also grow tapioca, and everything is organic till date since the birth of the earth. We can say that no chemical has been used in the Wancho soil, so it will be good. And regarding this traditional attire, in those days, people used to make their clothes by themselves by using a kind of thread. The wild plants are available for making thread, and from that thread they will weave the clothes, and accordingly they used to wear. But here, one thing I would like to mention is that in those days, people wore very less clothes. They used to put clothes in the waist portion only, and upper part they never wore. But by that also they lived a satisfactory life. They lived happily with very less clothes. And here I'm wearing this headgear. This is headgear made of bamboo. This is made of bamboo, and here one feather is. I'm using one feather here. Feather. This is a hornbill feather.
Right.
Hornbill feather, and here this is actually. Now I'm using the different kind of this modified one, but actually people used to use the real boar teeth, but now it is artificial one. So this is a headgear mainly used during festivals by the aged person, or even youths also. Actually it's a festival dress.
Okay.
And here I'm having this hair. This hair actually, when in Wancho area, when head hunting was prevailing, that time this kind of hair was put, and this hair was taken. This kind of hair used to be taken from the enemy head, and it will be taken from the enemy head. But actually, don't get scared of that. This one is not enemy's head and enemy's hair. This is actually again artificial one, because nowadays there is no enemy, there is no enmity among us in our area. There's no wars, there's no fighting among each other. But sometimes here I would like to also tell something about this head hunting. Some writers have wrongly described our people as a head hunting, or kind of a wild nature, a kind of a savage. But actually it was not like that. In Wancho also, Wancho people also, they struggled for their survival. They had some reason to quarrel, to have a head hunting process. So I have one story also, and that Tara has written a story of Kaimoi, of which the first head hunting story, which took place in Kaimoi village in many years back. So that was actually not purposefully hunted. The head was not purposefully hunted. The story goes like that. The person, one person from Ninu village, he was a kind of a naughty person, mischievous person. So one day when Kaimoi village, not Kaimoi villagers, they were celebrating a village festival, Bongwan festival. At that time, the one mischievous person, as told by some persons of the Kaimoi, he was named as Thamton Toam. He came there and he started just disturbing. He was just trying to disturb the climax of the festival. He was trying to spoil the climax of the festival. So the villagers, that person came from Ninu, and the villagers of Kaimoi, they got annoyed. They got disturbed. So the chief ordered them that if this person is doing too much, then we have to do something. Like again, so after that he ordered his men to just beat him with sticks. But accidentally, that person died, and after that, that person was handed over to Ninu. But Ninu villagers, they refused to accept that. They refused to accept that the dead body, because that it was some kind of an unholistic incident that had happened. So again, the dead body was again handed over back to the Kaimoi village, and the Kaimoi villagers then decided that, oh, okay, then if they are not accepting their own dead body, then we will do one thing. Like they will decide their fate, how to criminate, how to perform the final rites of that body, like that they thought, and they beheaded that person's head and consider it as a type of a type of what we call it's a right which villagers used to do when they hunted, when they used to hunt a wild animal. They used to celebrate songs. They used to perform songs and dance when they hunted a big animal like lion or tiger. In same manner, that person was treated, and after beheading, every rituals was done as they planned. But after that, the incident of the head hunting was the beginning one. So after that, this news spread like a wildfire everywhere in the Wancho area. And after that, the headhunting was headhunting was followed by other villages also. Like that, it is the story. But headhunting is not meant for fun. Sometimes some scholars said that headhunting was done just for fun, but it's not fun. It was done. Yes, the person who beheaded the person who brought the head was considered as a warrior, but it was just for evidence that he has done. He has hit hard to that enemy. Like that, it was that kind of sign. And we have many things like traditional healing system in the past, and but nowadays, unfortunately, it's no more in practice because people have started too much relying on the market medicines, on this modern medicines like that. So in those days, we had a traditional healing system, traditional expert. The person who used to heal the people, ailing person, sick person, had a knowledge of using many types of herbal medicines. Like suppose in my village also, I have just noted down some herbal plants name, and there are almost 25 to 25 around 25 herbal medicines I have noted down and I have found. But there may be many medicines which are not yet well noted down, well written down on the book. So in days to come, we have to do the research work on this herbal medicines also and local treatment system also. And the next is we had uh, community work. Wanchos are known for community sharing of work. They share everything with community. While constructing house also, Wanchos used to share community sharing of work. Some will collect wood, some will collect leaves, some will do that. And there are many kind of responsibilities for community, and they will collectively work and they will collectively build a house. And even if there is a uh, uh, unwanted incident happens, like suppose fire breaks out in the village, fire breaks out in the village. At that time also, the whole villages will come up to help, and they will provide food. They will provide housing materials to again construct the house. Likewise, even for going in the field and working for harvesting, and there are many things, but maximum things are done under the community by sharing the community work. So Wanchos are synonymous to the community work. Today, we see self-help groups in the modern day. We see that people are talking about self-help groups, SSG. Likewise, the type of SSG prevailed in the village in different form. We used to call it as Aisa, Aigu, like that. Young boys and girls used to collectively go to the field for harvesting, for cleaning the field, for weeding out, like that. It was done. So I think that there are many things to be done. Today, most of the things are slowly uh, uh, it's on the corridor to get extinct. Why? Because nobody has done research work on these things. I'm very much grateful to Tara because he took pain to come to the Wancho belt and do some writing works. I hope she is the first lady to come to the Wancho land and uh, do this research work. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for this elaborated explanation. Before I move to Tara, I would ask you about your marriage tradition, like how the marriage is performed. Is there any dowry prevailing in your community? That is my one question. And second is, what is the almost the total population of Wanchos right now?
Regarding this marriage system, uh, Wanchos don't have any dowry system. Wanchos do marriage in, we can say just in free of cost. We don't have any dowry system. Marriages are done by just actually in those days there used to be a kind of reservation system, uh, like mainland India. Fathers and mothers of the parents used to talk, and they used to engage a boy or girl like that they used to do. But it was not a forceful one as well. It was not a forceful thing. But again, the love, we can say love marriage is prevailing in the Wancho belt, in a Wancho community. More probably it's a love marriage. And there is no cost for marriage. Neither girl will pay anything, nor boy will pay anything like that. It's for me, it's a good system because there's no cost involved in that.
And that's a wonderful thing that this community is so progressive and do not have a rigorous tradition like dowry. So thank you so much, Jatwang. I'll come back to you. I'll now move to Tara. Tara, my first question to you is how you got interested in Wancho tribe.
Well, I will also show you this, share this presentation, which will give a bit more of a graphic visual idea of how I got interested in the Wancho tribe. I mean, I was always interested in folklores and folk tales and mythologies. And I have been working previously with other communities in India, in central India, and also in northeast India. And somehow in my research, you know, I was going also to museums and so forth, in the British Museum in the UK and the Horniman Museum, and then there's the Pitt Rivers Museum. This is just in the UK when I was there. And I saw all these beautiful artifacts and arts, and I wondered where they came from. And then I found out that they were Naga, you know, and that also some of them were from the Wancho community. Then, you know, also in my research, I came across somebody called Veria Elwyn. He is no more, but he's like me. He was a British person, and, you know, he dedicated his whole life finally to researching tribal communities and cultures in India. He started off in central India. He was born in 1902 and he passed away in 1964. So I never had the pleasure of meeting him, but I've read and gone through his books. He's written many, many books, probably around 26 books. And I came across this book here. It is called The Art of the Northeast Frontier of India by Veria Elwyn. And in this book, he has documented a lot of the art forms of Northeast India, particularly Arunachal Pradesh, which is where he spent a lot of time in his later life. And I came across these kind of images here, which you'll see more in the presentation. Yeah, okay. These are like the Wancho traditional artifacts. So wood carvings and ornaments, jewelries, like I'm wearing this necklace here, which was presented to me by Jatwang's students. So anyway, it was basically the visual art forms that really drew me to the Wancho culture. And then, as I'll show you in my little presentation, I happened to come across a young Wancho person for the first time. He was a student of the National Institute of Design in animation, which is my subject area. So I was very happy to meet Mr. Wangdan Wangpan. And anyway, one thing and another, he said that he would like to try to make an animation film, or he needed some support and help to make an animation film of his own cultural traditions and of a story from his own Wancho culture. And would I help him with that? So then I said, well, you know, that sounds very interesting, but what stories have you got in your culture? And because Wangdan had spent most of his life away from his community and his state, because he was in boarding schools and then he was in Gujarat, he really couldn't tell me any stories, you know. So then that meant, I mean, I did come across some stories in this book here when I was doing my library research. This is The Myths of the Northeast Frontier of India. There's quite a few Wancho stories in there, although again, it's stories, and this is by Veria Elwyn as well, documented by Veria Elwyn. You know, there's also stories from all the other tribes in Arunachal Pradesh. But you know, these books by Elwyn, they were done in the mid to late 1950s. So I wanted to find out what is the current situation regarding the stories and art forms, you know, and there was only so much that Wangdan could tell me. So then I felt, okay, let me try and go there and find out for myself, because if I'm going to prepare a proposal to make a project, an animation project, I've got to be very sure of how it's going to go and what kind of stories they have. But it was really difficult for me to go to Longding district, even though I have been to Arunachal Pradesh quite a few times before for an earlier project, which was more in the central part with the Tani group of tribes. We animated together. You'll see a little clip. We're going to share a clip of the Abu Tani film, their cultural hero of the Tani, the Abu Tani. But Longding is completely the other side of Arunachal Pradesh, and you know, it's a restricted area. It's a kind of a troubled area as well, from the point of view that it's got international borders, sensitive international borders with Myanmar. It's also bordering to Nagaland. I'll show you, it's on the map there on the PowerPoint presentation, its location, but this location, you know, meant that it's a highly restricted area, you know, and especially for foreign people with British passports like myself, you know, it was not easy to go there. It took many months to get the permission to go there. And finally I was able to go, and finally I was introduced to Jatwang through a mutual friend of ours. And I was hosted by him, and I had I spent 30 days there, more or less, in his village, based in his village, and then we traveled around together by foot and by his little tiny vehicle to some surrounding villages to record the stories. Yeah.
Wow. Lovely. I think now we have already moved on to my next question, which was, of course, to elaborate how the idea of converting Wancho stories into animation developed. So I think now we can see the slide, and you know, you take us through what all you saw and make us see through your eyes how the Wancho community looks like.
Well, this little slideshow I have put together just to give a little brief introduction, because as I mentioned, the attraction for me was very much a visual thing through the art forms. So I thought it'd be nice for people to see this kind of art forms. And also, you know, most people, I think they would not know where Longding is and where these Wancho people live. So I've started off with the little map there, where it is shown there, Longding district, right? And it's, you know, really is a border area of this country of India, because you've got Myanmar there. It's right on the Burmese border. At the same time, it's also bordering Nagaland, right? You know, and culturally, from what I understand, you know, the Wancho people are culturally related to some of the tribes, especially in the northern part of Nagaland, such as the Konyak, just across the border. And then, of course, there's the border with Assam. And about the population, I mean, what I understand is that there's about 57,000 of the Wancho people living in this Longding, mostly in this Longding district, which was carved out of a larger district called Tirap district. And yeah, moving on. So, you know, these are some examples of the beautiful Naga Wancho artifacts, their art forms. You know, there's few slides here that are coming up, starting with this one. These are some artifacts which are kept in the National Museum in New Delhi. They have the gallery called the Northeast Lifestyle Gallery. you know, it's kind of not as well maintained as it should be. And all of these artifacts, I mean, not all of them, but a lot of them, they were collected by Dr. Veria Elwyn when he went and did his research in Northeast India, when he went to the Wancho area. But we wouldn't guess that if we go to the National Museum, because it is not labeled anything like that. But these were the beautiful art forms which really attracted me to find out more. Next one. Yeah, I mean, these are all from Veria Elwyn's collection, so not really sure if they're still making these kind of items, because, you know, these items, I believe they were also celebrating the achievements of the warriors and the warrior traditions, you know. But these Wancho hairpins, anyone could go and see them at the National Museum. They are there in the Northeast Lifestyles Gallery.
Jatwang, do you still have these being used in your community, or now they're extinct?
Which one?
These hairpins.
Oh, this one.
Yeah, the one on the screen.
This one, it may be used in some remote villages, but so far I haven't seen, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. Yeah, Tara, please carry on.
Do move on to the next slide, perhaps. Can move on to the next slide. And this is, anyway, again, Jatwang would be able to say more, but this was one of the traditional warriors' baskets. You know, I think they would carry them on their back when they went off to, you know, on their expeditions. Yeah, again, and the pipes, you know, carved pipes. So this was the kind of art form which was really caught my imagination. You know, this kind of art form, it also caught the imagination of you know, administrators and anthropologists during the British times, which is why, you know, there are these similar kind of artifacts to this from the Wancho community in these museums in the UK, like the British Museum and so forth. So, and this one is the last one of the artifacts which is in this presentation, and this one is from the JN Museum in Itanagar in Arunachal, Pradesh. So looking at this kind of art forms, I was thinking, you know, how this would be if it could be animated. You know, could we get our design inspiration, if we are going to make a story from the Wancho community in animated film, can we base our designs on the traditional artifacts and art forms that they have? So that was part of the research. And this is my young colleague and the person who really got me into the Wancho thing. This is Wangdan Wangpan. You know, he's now graduated a few years ago from the National Institute of Design. Now, for me, it was really exciting to meet Wangdan because, you know, animation is a real specific technical process, you know. And here was an animator from the Wancho community, you know, so that was really exciting for me. And this is a picture of Wangdan working on the Abutani film, which is a different community. This is how I got introduced to him. He was like doing kind of a work experience with me, you know, on this other film. A couple of films that you see, this is with the little stop motion puppets and all. He was a key person on the Tales of the Tribes collection, which was the first thing. So Wangdan, he introduced me to a friend of his called Banwang Losu, who you see there in the photograph, who is the person who has, you know, developed this Wancho script, and he's also a colleague of Mr. Jatwang. Okay, so that was outside of Arunachal. Then like I mentioned, I had to go to Arunachal to see for myself, but it was so difficult to go there. My very first trip to Arunachal, which was over a year ago, I had gone with Banwang to Arunachal, well, to the border area, but I did not have my permit at that time. The permit was very late in coming, so I more or less had to sit at the border. Banwang kindly called up some of the Wanchos from Nino village and said, please come and meet her. She wants to hear something of your culture. And they came down in their car to the border area, and they spent a good few hours with me singing and so forth. And then, but I couldn't go any further. I couldn't go to Nino village because I didn't have the permit. So I had to turn back and leave. And then I had to go back, you know, a few months later. I went back. Last November was my first trip. But at that time, wait, one minute. Oh, well, at that time, yeah, you see, it was all set that Banwang would come with me and he would be my guide, so to say, right? For my trip to Longding district to his village. But by the time I actually went to his village, he's now doing his MA in linguistics in Pune, so he had his commitments to that. So suddenly my permit comes and I've got no guide, you know, but I said to him, I'm going anyway because it took me so many months to get my permission. I'm stubborn that way, I'm just going to go. Anyway, he kindly phoned up his family and his friends and Jatwang and all and said, look after her when she comes. So thankfully they did. Next slide. Next one. Yeah, anyway, Jatwang has already told you the story of the first headhunting. Yeah, this was our storyteller for that particular story. Kaimoi village. I realized when I was there, you know, amongst this, in the Patkai Hills with these people, that these hills and these territories are just animated with stories and memories. And it really is the elders of the community that are the keepers of this knowledge and this history. It's their oral history, which now, thankfully, might be able to get written down also, because even by them also, in their using their Wancho script. Anyway, I won't go tell that story again because he's already mentioned the story of the first headhunting from Kaimoi village. Yeah, what I could do very quickly, if there's time, you know, this headhunting thing, I mean, Jatwang has put it very well, you know, but yeah. Oh, anyway, even Veria, Elwyn and other scholars, yeah, have written about this headhunting thing, and surely some of them did get it wrong, but you know, yeah. Anyway, he was telling the stories of the headhunting. Maybe I'll read that part afterwards if there's time. About the headhunting. Yeah, you could probably move on to the next. Oh yes, here. Can I read just a tiny bit? It's only like a paragraph from this book by Dr. Veria Elwyn, who was the researcher, right?
Right.
Okay, this is what he's written. It's just one paragraph. He's written, attached to the skull of the dead man is a mysterious substance, known by a variety of names according to the local village dialect. This is of the greatest value and importance, for it protects the villages and it improves its crops and brings good luck in the hunt. It provided in the past a powerful motive for headhunting, for the bringing of a skull to a village meant at the same time the import of the additional energy attached to it, right? So from what I understand from this research is that, you know, there was something very special, like maybe the consciousness was in the head, the consciousness of a human being and of the enemy was in the head. So therefore it was, by bringing back the enemy's head, you could ensure the fertility of the soil, the good crops, the good luck, the keeping the spirits happy sort of thing because of this special substance. Anyway, I just thought I would mention that because so many of the stories, of the old stories of the Wancho community are about these conflicts between the different villages, you know, and this tradition of warriorship. Yeah, and this Mr. Gantang Pangsa in the photograph here, he was telling these kind of stories to us, recorded it. Maybe the next one. Next slide. Yeah, and where do these stories come from? you know. This is the terrain, this is where they come from, you know, the Patkai Hills. Far distant over there on the top of the peak, you can just see a few little white spots which marks the village, Kamwa Noknu village, that's Jatwang's village, where I was based. And the stories are so much connected to the land, that's where they come from, you know, they're like homegrown stories. And they are about, well, they're about so many different things, but many of them are about the territory and relating to landmarks in the territory, particular stones, particular trees, particular rivers, you know, and also, of course, the conflict between the villages over land and over resources. Very much grounded in the territory. So the next one.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. So, and Jatwang has already mentioned about the traditional house building. Yeah, you know, I wanted to just mention about, yeah, because, you know, these houses, they are just so beautiful, really, you know, completely organic, you know, made with the locally available materials, you know, and that's something which I learned from my visit of there, you know, in the Wancho area, is like how they managed to use the local materials that were available in all kinds of ways, you know, for building, for fishing, for agriculture, for remedies and so forth, as he's mentioned. You know, these are organic, biodegradable materials. They don't cause any harm or pollution to the environment, you know, and the material needs are kept low. It's very sustainable as opposed to like overconsumption, which is what you know, my society is used to, the overconsumption. This is a very sustainable way of living. Anyway, that's why I wanted to show that photo. Next one. Yeah, sustenance, you know, I put this photo in because, you know, how do these people, how do the Wangchos live? What do they live on, you know? How do they eat and survive, you know? So this photo is when I went on a fishing trip there with Jatwang and his community fishing.
Massive.
And again, as he has said, you know, it's so much this, it's another thing which made a big impression on me was, you know, this community spirit that everyone is helping each other, you know, and this fishing, everyone is helping in the fishing, you know, and more hands, you know, more gets achieved when everyone's helping each other, right? So that's something that, because in my society, all that is kind of breaking down completely, you know, in the urban society, this thing of helping each other. I think Jatwang, I can tell a bit more about the way when they catch the fish, or even when they catch an animal, how the meat has to be divided. You know, they have a very strict system of traditional system of dividing the meat up to according to seniority, you know. All these kind of things, I think, is what really keeps the community and the culture together, you know.
Okay.
So, next one.
I will come back to Jatwang to ask this thing. So
quickly, oh yes, and I just included this photograph in my presentation here. There is a story connected to it. I don't want to take up all the time in telling the story, but like I mentioned, it's all the you know, the stories there connected to features, natural features in the area. You know, this stone is the center stone of the Kamwa Noknu village, and there's a very lovely story connected to it. You know, I don't know if we have time to tell that story right now. Anyway.
Yes, yes. Stories are good to share. So please share.
Okay, let me share that story. I have got the, in essence, 1 minute now. Right. And another thing I'd just like to point out is that the storytelling.
That's a screen of 360.
नेट कुछ प्रॉब्लम हो गया
Other, and you know, a cultural elder and a storyteller and the keeper of the traditions, you know, so he was a storyteller. The story goes something like this. from what I understand. And of course, you know, for me, you know, my Wancho language is non-existent, you know, first time so anyway, I completely depended on Jatwang. He was my guide, he was my translator and also my friend on this journey. And that's how I managed to find out the meaning of the story, which was told by his father. And it goes a bit like this, that there were two chiefs who came from Tangnu village, right? That's now I think it's in present-day Nagaland, right? Tangnu village. And, you know, this is one thing I noticed in the documentation of these stories of how important the names are to the storytellers and to the local community. You know, and there was a lot of discussion anyway. There were, you see again, the pronunciation, but it's Longai Wangham and Lofa Wangham, the two chiefs, right? They were going to the nearby Ninu village, right? And then they had this plan that the younger chief would stay in Ninu and he would become the chief of Ninu village because they didn't have a chief, and that the elder brother would return, you know. It was just going along for the journey, just accompanying him. Anyway, the story goes like this, that they crossed this land, Kamwa Noknu land, and on the way they stopped to rest at a large stone, which we see here, which is now at the center of the village. And the story goes that the elder chief, you know, the chiefs, the Wancho chiefs, they have, you know, they have this tradition. Again, I think it should really be Jatwang who talks more about that than me. But, you know, this chief tradition is very much there, and it's also going to come across in our animation film. And the chiefs, you know, they have, you know, certain things that they can wear and other people cannot wear, and all those customs are there. And they wear this kind of beads below the knee, blue beads. And the story is that the elder chief, he removed his blue beads and he dropped them by the stone at that spot, and then they carried on. This was like a plot because he wanted to get and become the chief of Ninu village, so it was like a trickery kind of a thing. Anyway, they carried on. Then he said, look, I have lost my beads. You better go back. Can you go back and have a look for them? So the younger brother went back with his gang, with his followers, to go and retrieve these beads which had been lost. And in the meantime, the elder brother marches ahead and gets to Ninu and becomes the chief. You know, that's kind of in a nutshell what the story was about. And apparently Jatwang was telling me, and his father was telling us, that the name of the village, Kamwa Noknu, Kamwa, comes from these beads, which are known as kam, right? Jatwang? The beads, the blue beads, huh? And, I don't want to do all the talking and telling about this, but yeah. Next one. Right, so this is, you know, this is Jatwang's father, Mr. Jatwang Wangsa there in the center, and his mother there, family picture. I think Jatwang would be the better person to talk more about the Wancho family and how the stories get passed on from generation to generation through the oral traditions. From father to son, and from the parents, the grandparents and the parents, sitting around the fire on those long dark nights in the village, how to entertain the children, tell them the traditional stories. Next one.
Do they have electricity in the village?
Jatwang?
Yeah. We have
Not much. Minimum electricity. Occasionally, from time to time. No?
Sure.
So the lifestyle still revolves around the sun. That means once it's dark, the life is confined to home and around it.
We have other options also, like a solar lamp or a solar inverter. Like we can manage.
So that is done by the government or by the community themselves?
By the government. By the government.
That's nice to hear. Okay. Okay.
So this photo here is, you know, again, it's back to the livelihood, you know, of these Wancho community, the villagers, you know, and what do they eat and how do they survive? So we have this picture of the local millet, you know. I went on some little journeys with Jatwang to check out how the community, how these people live. What else do they use this millet for, Jatwang?
Oh, this millet. The black one, it is visible. That black one is used for food also and for preparing wine. Wine.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Lovely.
mm.
I think
There's also a folk story. There's stories all about the preparing of the wine and who is allowed to do it and not allowed to do it. Isn't that right, Jatwang?
Yeah.
Tell who is allowed to prepare the wine?
In Wancho custom, generally male are not allowed to prepare wine, but females has to do. They have to females has to prepare wine, and that can be consumed by both male and female.
Okay.
There's a lot more to that story as well. That time is short. But the female, did not the woman go and ask God for something to make the man more tame and more friendly? Yeah? That is what we heard. That is what we heard, that the wine, the technique of making wine was given to woman in order to pacify and tame man.
Yeah. There's a short story in this wine preparation. Can we share that?
Please share. Please
No
share
need.
Yes. We want to hear the story.
Actually, there is one short story regarding this wine. Let me first tell that this wine is prepared by this millet, and we have two here in this picture. There's a two type of millet. One is foxtail millet, and the other one is the color is different, brown color millet. So the brown color one is used. It is used for yeast, preparing yeast. The brown color millet is used for preparing yeast. And hello.
Yes, we're getting you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And the story goes like that. In the past, God made male and female both for living equally, to share love and to share everything. But the male was very much extraordinary. He was very tough. He never approached humbly to his wife or the female counterpart, we may say. So it was, the situation was like that, the male or female wanted, or in short we can say that wife always wanted her husband to be heard, but the husband was very tough, very rude. He was hard in his approach. So the woman or the female, or say wife, he was depressed. He fell into depression. So he prayed to the God that my male partner is very rude, very tough, very hard. He's no more listening to me, like that. He prayed to God, and finally, God. It is said that the God provided a technique that's called yeast. Today we call it yeast, but the God told the lady how to prepare the yeast, and accordingly the lady learned, the woman learned how to prepare that yeast, and after that, using that yeast, he started making this millet wine and other wines also. Wine can be made not only with millet, it can be prepared from maize, and it can be prepared from tapioca also, fresh tapioca. So it is believed that, it is said that the whole process of making wine has been taught by a god, as the woman prayed to the god. So it is blessing of the god how to make this wine. So after that, the lady, woman started making wine, and he offered to the male counterpart, and the male counterpart started drinking. And when it is well known to all that if someone drinks wine, then naturally his approach will become soft. Then after that only, uh, the male counterpart started listening to the female, listening to the wife. This is the story, short story.
Very interesting. I think a lot of people who are against patriarchy system would have a lot of points to say in this story. Interesting. So lovely. Thank you so much for sharing this story, Jatwang. And I am sure, Tara, we can actually do one session only on the food tradition of the Wancho society community. I'm sure there's a lot to even learn there, and I'm really amazed to see that even today the community is living in not this urban kind of brick and mortar made houses, but very sustainable material you are using, and I'm sure that is definitely not in line with what we do here. We first make brick and mortar houses, and then we want to cool them with air conditioners, and we generate more heat and more pollution in the process. So I'm sure this technology, this technique which prevailed and which is still sustained by your community is remarkable, and we in urban spaces should learn to include some part of it in our own daily life and even in our own construction of the houses now. Continue, Tara.
Should
Over
we
to
have
you.
carry on with the slideshow? There's just a few more of the village, and it goes into the animation part. Next one. Yeah, the local skills, you know. Again, maybe Jatwang better say more about this, you know, the fact that the Wanchos, they know how to make their own gunpowder and their own guns, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. This is the gunpowder, black gunpowder. It is made from one kind of fungus. It is found in my village. The fungus is collected from that is a certain portion of the land, and it will be it will be preserved in the one kind of basket like structure, and it will be kept for a week or a month. After that, from that basket, a liquid thing will come out, and that will be stored, that will be collected in a tube, and then it will be mixed with a kind of a wood coil. One particular wood is we use, and that wood is called uma. And that coil, after burning that wood, a coil will come out, and that coil will be mixed with that the liquid which transforms from the fungus, and automatically after that it will be ready made for gun, and it is a Wancho black gunpowder, and it is actually gun is used for hunting, community hunting, and while if somebody dies in the village, to notify the death of the person, the gun will be shot in the air, and the neighbor will come to understand about that incident, and this is that.
So one can really see, you know, that that they're really ingenious people that have managed to, you know, work out all these techniques basically for survival in their territory and all, you know, completely independently. This is their own indigenous knowledge that, you know, they have.
Is this legal in the community to use this gunpowder and gun? Is this legal?
Uh,
I mean, the government allows this to use it, or is there any ban on that, on this kind of tools?
Actually, regarding this gun and gunpowder, uh, I don't think there is restriction, but this gun was used since the British era, and my elder to my our elder elders used to tell that our forefathers used to tell that they made they have a technique, they learned this gun making and gunpowder making since the British time. And during this we have one story, Ninu massacre story, which took place the fight, the struggle or battle took place between Britishers and Wancho Ninu village. In that also this gun was used, like that it is told.
Lovely. Should we go on the
So
next one?
I don't think there's a
Next slide. Okay. This is one of the, I think he's the eldest man in Kamwanoknu village, and he was one of our storytellers that we recorded the story. This was the story of, again, it was to do with place and location. Yeah, there's a forest, like a forested area close to Kamwanoknu, and he was telling that story of, you know, this conflict with another village, Mintong village, and how this piece of land with the trees, this forested area, was given from one village to another village, to Kamwan village. And he was also talking about this traditional festival, Pongwan festival. The village, the elders, it's the elders of the village that have this memories, this knowledge. These are the people we have to consult to get the accurate details, and they do remember the details, and they remember the names of all the people involved. It's very important, you know, who was involved in these stories, and to imagine that they're not written down, you know, they haven't been written down so far. So, you know, the memories of all these people and their names and where things actually happened, you know, through the generations. I mean, that's quite an achievement, I feel.
yeah, that's quite an achievement. It's a fantastic thing, because they had a lot of memory about this whole story, whole villages, customs, rituals. Everything was oral. They kept in their memory, and still they are telling the stories. Still they are telling how the custom has to be followed, how the story is that. Everything.
Okay, Jatwang, can you tell us his name, this storyteller?
His name is Tangkam Phem. Tangkam Phem. Tangkam Phem.
Yeah, and this was the true story of how the Lonu Jing was given to Komoanoknu by Mintong village. Yeah, this forested area, how it was given from one village to another.
Yeah.
So it's really very much through these stories that the community is connected to the land, you know. They know where they belong. They know that, you know, that they are part of the land, that the land is part of them, kind of a thing, because the stories tell that. Next one. Yeah, this is a little hut. I mean, I was trying to illustrate the idea of the field hut, but I was just recently told by my Wancho friend who's visiting here that it's not a field hut, it's a fishing hut. But kind of similar purpose, because, you know, the traditional agriculture in these areas, because it's very hilly, it's very difficult to do agriculture. So the traditional method was by slash and burn, you know, clearing the jungle, scattering the seeds, waiting for the rains to come, and then the crop, the rice, mainly rice, and then other vegetables also planted within the rice crop, come up. And these June fields, the cultivating fields, they tend to be quite a long distance from the village, right? After the morning meal, they get up and then they walk off down to their fields to do their cultivation, and then they might even stay the night there, and they certainly would have lunch there probably. Then they build this little field hut for that purpose. Yeah. Okay. Then this photograph I have chosen because this is, I went with Jatwang and his family to visit this elder person, Mr. Jatwang Wangsa from Longkai village. And it was particularly interesting for me because this person, Mr. Wangsa here, you know, Jatwang told me that he is not a Christian. Yeah, because Christianity has come mostly to all of these communities there, and to the Wancho community. I think majority of them are Christians, officially Christians these days. So it was very interesting to meet somebody who was not a Christian from this community. We recorded his songs and stories and stuff, of which it still mostly has to be translated. And
we will move fast now. We will move fast now, Tara.
Okay, then let's move on. Maybe we can, if there's any question about the indigenous faith. Okay, and then, you know, how did I go about this research and recording? Well, there I am sitting there with my camera and headphones recording an elder person, and there is my Jatwang, my right-hand man, who is my translator, helping me out there, going from village to village. Yeah, went to a few villages. Next slide. Yes, and then now quickly this thing of converting to animation films, you know, and how are we going to do that? Yeah, and why would we even want to do that? Well, no, just go back one. Anyway, back to the last slide, if possible. Doesn't really matter, but I did do a little tiny workshop. This is a picture of Jatwang's school, right? The Kawanoknu government middle school, you know, and I wanted to interact with the children. I wanted to show them some animations and find out if there was any interest from them in converting one of the Wancho stories into an animated film. This particular slide, you know, showing some animation, existing animation, the ones I'd done previously, showing it to the kids. You can see, you know, everyone was very enthusiastic. It was completely squeezed into the classroom. You couldn't have fitted another body, you know. All the wiring had to be done so that the projector would be on and all of that, but there was boundless enthusiasm for this idea of animation. And they also want to see a Wancho animation story. I did a small workshop there, but it's a slow process. Next one. Next slide. Then now I'm in, since the lockdown period, I'm on the other side of the country. I'm in Dehradun right now. And I'm sitting here with all these stories, all written, all spoken in Wancho by the elders. I'm unable to do very much with it because I don't understand the language, you know, but I'm trying to think as a filmmaker, as an animation filmmaker, how can we interpret this, take one story, one sample story, and convert it into an animated film. So in my time, to pass my time, I'm starting to try to develop characters, you know, using all different types of materials here for animation. And this is some characters that I am developing for the Wancho animation film. I'm trying to get the attire right and all the accessories right, you know, through the research, looking at the research materials to see what they would be wearing and how they would be wearing it and all of that. Yeah. This is the Wancho story of the good. Yeah, it's actually a wonderful story. It is about the creation of the first chief. Shall we go on to the next slide? Yeah, the first chief. So I've got them behind me. You can see also my models. Shall I bring it out and show it? Yeah. Here we go. Can you see there? The Wancho chief. Yeah. The Wancho chief model,
yes,
which I have made. Yeah. Yes, actually having the book here right on me, but I have got a book with, it's a book written by a local person. It's on the Ninu massacre, which Jatwang had mentioned to you, this incident. And anyway, there's a picture in that book of the chief of Ninu. Yeah, he's wearing this kind of attire in miniature for the animation film, for this, to tell the story of the creation of the chief. And it's a very magical, mythological story, you know, which has a lot of deep meaning as well. Basically, you know, anyway, the chief comes out of the gourd, right? The chief is created from the gourd. So the chief is actually, again, connected to, you know, to the plants, to the nature, to the territory, to the earth, you know. We all come from the earth. Next one. Yeah, there's a little chief again, and got to get all the details right as far, you know, as far as I possibly can, all the way here in Dehradun. He's got his little gun. He's got his dao, you know, which this dao here, which is the all-purpose kind of axe type of a thing for doing the slashing the vegetation in the forest and maybe cutting, chopping, all that kind of thing. Then he's got this beaded thing, like this kind of a beaded thing, this sash, and this kind of loincloth. And there you can see below his knees is this, you know, the blue beads, which only the chief is allowed to wear. Isn't that right, Jatwang?
Yeah.
Only chief and chief's family, right? Male members, right? And then, and then the chief also, he has like special ornaments, you know, and these ornaments are passed on from father to son, you know, like this, and they're actually pretty valuable, you know, like the necklace and all, you know, special necklace, like heirloom necklace. Yeah. Okay, next one. I think that's it, more or less. Just quickly recap this story of the gourd, yeah, where they're, you know, it's about, again, it's about two brothers, yeah. Somehow this theme of two brothers comes up quite frequently in the Wancho stories, you know, and there's this trickery between the two brothers. There's the elder brother who's probably entitled to get the position, but somehow the younger brother manages to trick him and take the position for himself. So this story starts with that thing, you know, the two supernatural brothers in the sky. One of them finally becomes the god. Yeah, what is it? It's the younger brother becomes the god, right? And the elder brother gets stuck on Earth, and he becomes the ancestor of humankind, right? And so there's this theme there of trickery between the brothers, yeah, trickery and negotiation, and again this theme of establishing territory, you know, how man came to Earth and how he got into the village and how he got his territory. Then there was this thing, which this other thing which was baffling me, this thing that snakes and birds, you know, that they were hunting snakes and birds. But just the other day, my other colleague who's visiting me, Wancho colleague, he was explaining this thing about the snakes and birds. Because they were supernatural beings, they use snakes like today's human beings would use dogs for hunting, you know. They use the birds. It was the birds, wasn't it? They use the birds to, like dogs, to trace the animal, and they used to hunt snakes. No. And then there's thing of dividing the meat, the catch, or whatever, according to the traditional custom. That's part of this story as well.
Yeah, that's part of the story.
Yeah, these are like the traditional elements that we kind of.
Lovely. I think these are endless stories, and one can keep on listening to them. That's the amazing part. So now I will just ask one question to Jatwang, that is about how they share the catch and what is the discipline followed in there. And after that, let's watch one of the films. So Gaurav, please keep it ready by the time we are listening from Jatwang, how the catch is shared and what is the discipline in that.
Yes, that's a very important thing. And the distribution of meat or distribution of feast, everything, it is related to this story which Tara has told. Here in Wancho villages, meat or eatable things, it is always being distributed equally. But in modern day, or even in other areas, we see that people use spoon, how much they eat, they can take like that. But in Wancho area, in our land, in our custom, uh, it has to be distributed equally, one after other. First, the person will count it, how much it is there. If suppose the person is 10, then the eatable thing will be put on the this banana leaf, and then it will be distributed equally. If the person gets 3, the last person should also get 3, like that. So that goes. This is the way of distribution. It is the distribution applies to the not only meat, not only fish, everything, every eatable items. That's all.
So is there anything different for the head of the community?
And yes, we have chieftainship system, chief system, chieftainship,
Yeah.
and the chief is the head of the village, and he manages entire system. He is the head of the village, and he will suppose if there is a dispute breakouts between two persons, then the chief with his council of members, he will call a meeting, and he will summon the case. He will just study the case. He will interrogate everything, and then if he finds guilty in someone, then accordingly there will be a fine. There will be a punishment like that. So local self-governing system is still prevailing in Wancho community, and that's good for us.
And how do
And
you choose?
here,
Yeah, sorry.
here very rare police case is there, because most of the case is being handled in the village level, and that's a unique thing.
The police must be very happy. They have less work to do, which is good. So
Yes,
how do
yes,
you
of course.
how do you choose the chief?
Chief,
Yeah.
chief is hereditary system, monarchy type.
Okay.
The chief son will be chief, and it goes like this, like that. And
And
we
if
have
he doesn't have a son, then what?
it will be hired from some other chief.
Okay. Okay.
It
He
has to
will
be
have
chief
to.
family.
Okay.
Uh,
He can adopt another from the family itself, and that person will
uh,
be. So
we he can adopt.
and till the time the chief is alive, he is the chief, or is there any age to that?
Chief, yes, there is some limit of the chief. If the chief becomes too old, then his son, if he attains 35 years or 40, then the charge of ruling will be given to him.
Ah,
And in the
young.
village, yeah. And in the village, generally, the biggest house will be the chief's house, and other will be smaller houses.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Jatwang. And Gaurav, let's see the film because we had been hearing about it. Time limit. What we will do is because a lot of things got covered in your presentation only. So I'll ask 2 more questions and then we will close it because after that we will play a movie or a film also. Hence we will close it now fast. So okay. Yes. So I will have one question for Jatwang. So Jatwang, does tattoo play any important role in your culture? And is the different type of tattoos assigned to different roles? Like a chief, is he supposed to wear different kind of tattoos? What is the role of tattoos in your culture?
Yes, tattoo is also an important part of Wancho culture. But these days, as most of our people, they have adopted Christianity, then most of the people don't follow this tattoo rituals. But in those days, when I was child, I saw, and my mother also has tattoo mark. The tattoo mark symbolizes. It has a different kind of symbols. A tattoo has. First, I would like to tell about the ladies which has tattoos. Uh, tattoo in ladies, when they attain adulthood, then the tattoo mark will be done on their thigh or their legs, and that symbolizes that the person has attained adulthood and she can be eligible for marriage, like that. And when after tattoo mark only, that particular lady has to get married. Otherwise, in our society, it's not allowed. It was not allowed. That is the system. And one thing, as far as the male tattoo is concerned, male persons who achieved a Veria rank, suppose if he has in those days, I'm talking about the headhunter days, when the person used suppose he attained a head, he beheaded the enemy head, then naturally that person will get a tattoo mark on his chest, and that will be regarded as that person will be now known as the warrior of the village. And that's all I know.
Okay, thank you so much. One last question for you, Jatwang. I understand there was a...
Sorry.
Hmm.
In some cases, in some villages, they are tattoo marked in face also, and this also implies, tells about that signifies the warrior of the village.
Okay. So tell me one thing that I heard Tara mentioning about the Wancho script. So you are a teacher. So what kind of education system is followed in the community right now? Is it the English tradition like CBSE board and other boards we have in the mainland India? Or is it that a separate kind of education system you're following?
Yeah, I'm very much eager to mention about this Wancho script. We have Wancho script, that has been authored by Banwang Losu, one of my colleague. He's of my village, my same village fellow.
Yes.
And now we are lucky. We feel lucky that this Wancho script has come up, and due to that, we are able to write our language by using this Wancho script. Actually, in our education system, this we follow NCERT pattern, CBSE pattern. Means we follow that, and we have English and Hindi, both English and Hindi medium as well. In normal curriculum in schools, we use Hindi and English, but our tribe, Wancho, has now decided to take this, to consider this Wancho script, to use this Wancho script as a third language. And now training has been imparted recently. And last time also the training, the first phase training was done. And this year we did second phase training. And this time we got nearly 60 trained youths of our Wancho, and now they are expert in writing this Wancho script. We are very much grateful to Banwang Losu for creating this Wancho script. Actually, the purpose behind creating or writing or inventing of this Wancho script is a very unique thing. Here, by using English or Hindi, we can't capture most of the sounds. We have a peculiar kind of sounds that can't be captured in using this Roman script or Devanagari script. That's why Mr. Losu felt to create or to write, or we can say to invent this Wancho script. And now it is applicable on a computer also. We can write on keyboard this Wancho script, and now it is recognized in Unicode as well. After some days, it can be written through SMS. It can be available on online also. So our community, Wancho, is very much happy of this Wancho script creation.
I can imagine that, because it's so fortunate that before it is lost, there is somebody who's reviving it, who's documenting it, and being available online is a phenomenal thing, because then it can be used widely. So it's really nice. Congratulations to you and your community that they are working towards reviving their own culture and traditions. I think we are now almost closing our time. And Tara, we would like to end the show with your film. Would you like to say a few things about the film?
Well, it's not really, it's, we are about to start the Wancho animation film project. So what you will see, I think, will be just a very small clip, maybe a 10-second clip, and that's literally just something that I've done myself here in Dehradun during this lockdown period, just to test out, to see how we can represent it, what kind of materials and all of that, how it can be done technically. If the film set is behind me right here, you know, filming against the green screen is what I do. I've been trying out, I make the models, I film them against the green, then in the post-production, take away the green and replace it with the backgrounds and all. But it's just a very, very starting stage. You know, I have working on a film script from the original story, which was told in Wancho, then now it has gone, thanks to Jatwang, into English. And then from that written style into the film script, which is what I'm working on, and I'm getting a bit of help and generally consulting with other filmmakers, you know. And then from the film script, we have to make a storyboard. And the long and short of it is that it is a community project. It is a project that's sponsored by the Northeastern Council based in Shillong, Meghalaya, for promotion of the culture of Northeast region. And so they are sponsoring this project. It is under the Northeastern Hill University, NEHU, Department of Anthropology. As soon as we can, which according to this, you know, pandemic situation is delayed, you know, the idea is that we will be, as part of the project, inviting some young people to come from the village, from the Wancho village, to Shillong, to Nehu, to work together in a 3-week-long animation workshop to help develop this story. And the idea of this is also to provide some exposure to these young people who may not have the opportunity for this kind of thing, but from the context of their own culture. So they can explore animation and media techniques from the context of their own culture. And, you know, that would hopefully make the film also more, you could say, authentic, more kind of connected to the place at the end of the day. We want to keep the film connected to the location, to the people. We are going to make it finally, and we will have an English language version. We may well have a Hindi language version, but we're certainly going to have a Wancho language version. And then one last thing I'd like to say is that thankfully and fortunately, my permission to go back to Longding district has been granted despite this pandemic situation. So I'm just getting myself ready to go back there in the month of October next month. And I'll stay again. I'm going to come and visit you again, Jatwang. And we're going to carry on with our translations, which takes a lot of work because we have to go through each and every word and figure out what does it mean and all of that, you know. From the Wancho into English. And we're going to do this bilingual book of folk stories. All the stories we have collected, we're going to bring it out in English, and then with the Wancho, written in Wancho script, in Wancho language, and hopefully some illustrations done by the young people in the village. That's our project for the next 1 year. It's called The Stories of Our Ancestors. Please be a part of it. Join us.
Yes, definitely. And while you are there, I think we can do one session in between, that how you are developing it and what kind of, you know, what kind of challenges also which are coming your way, and we can probably be in touch from KCC and be part of this journey. Yeah, that will be nice for us.
That's lovely. It'd be lovely also if maybe we could have, I'm just proposing and suggesting, you know, maybe we could have a screening of the final film some point. It will be in about a year's time, not before that, at Kolkata Center for Creativity, You know, you've seen some of these examples of this beautiful artwork of the Wancho. Maybe we can include some kind of cultural program.
Absolutely.
Up to you. That would be really nice.
Yeah. Some exhibit could be part of the film screening that will actually add some more value to the experience of knowing the community better. Because seeing on the screen is different, but maybe we can ask Jatwang to bring some, if possible, with him so that we can actually engage with it in different ways. Maybe we can have some programs with schools also, so they get to know about their own communities and keep in touch with them. So I think it's a beautiful session. Yeah, please.
No, I was just going to say that, you know, what is really encouraging for me, you know, is the fact that these Wancho, the people that I've come into contact with, they're still so much in touch with their real cultural traditions, you know, and not only that, they are, despite all this, you know, dilemma of modernity and having to join them, you know, and get jobs and all of that, you know, they're still very proud of their culture, right? And that's important. That's so important, you know, if it's going to be sustained. And also the other thing is this absolute generosity and wanting to share their information and wanting to share and enjoying it when people come and participate and find out, you know, they want to communicate their culture and share it, you know. That's really nice for me.
That's
Yeah.
for sure, Tara. But I would also like to mention here that it is a lovely person like you who's doing it. Hence, they're also opening up to you, because it also depends who's the person who's trying to, you know, communicate with them. And a lovely person, a good human being, of course, and the kind of honest effort you are doing in documenting and creating this animation series is, of course, comes out very, very honestly in your whole you know, the journey I had with you from the time you came for Vasudev. So I think it is also that people need to be honest to the community, and community definitely will open up. And I'm really delighted that we could start this endeavor with you, and Jatwang could join us. And I'm really glad that there is so much to look forward to. And I promise that we will do the film screening at Kolkata Center for Creativity, and we will try to have an exhibition also as much as possible for Jatwang or you to bring some artifacts. And I'm sure that, you know, we will go a long way. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So the two clips I think we might see, and one of them would be very, very short, just a few seconds, and that was the one cut out one with the tiger. That was actually a local student, one of Jatwang's students who did that. So that's why I wanted to show it. And the other one is the cutting of the gourd with the animation models you see behind me, 10-seconder to close the show. Yeah?
Okay. So we'll add in the end. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. I really enjoyed the session. Thank you very much.
Once upon a time, there were two brothers who loved each other very much.
Abutane!
Yes.
Abutani had second sight because of his extra set of eyes. He knew what was coming.
Abutane!
Yes.
Why can't you look after your animals properly? I cannot live with this anymore.
How dare you? This is too much. I can't live with you anymore. Let us divide the land right now and live separately.
All right. I will take the land in the valley.
No. I want it. You go to the hills.
All right. I'll go to the hill then.
Come, brother. Let's celebrate this day as a new beginning. Let us sacrifice a Mithun before we part ways.
Hello friend, you look tired. Why don't you take a rest and I will guard your meat.
That is a good idea. I will rest for a while. Now I'm going to teach that Tapeng a lesson he will never forget.
And that is how we became black in color. But that was not the end. When Abotani lost his extra eyes, he lost his magical powers.
Stop! This cannot go on. From Abotani will come the race of men. From Yapom will come the race of Uyus.
Yes, and the orders must be given in writing. I cannot trust Abotani.
Then give me something to write on. This is for you. And this is for you.
Oh, I am so hungry.
So this is why the children of Abotani did not know anything of reading and writing.
And what about Yapom? What happened to him?
He lives at the top of the tree to this day.
Abotani!
Abotani kadinjam, abotaro kadinjam, abotani kadinjam, donigengunde kadinjam, buddhi tolo kadinjam, polong kadinjam, buddhi tolo kadinjam, abotani kadinjam, komdu utuma kadinjam.
This is the Wancho animation film project. Now the Wanchos are a group of people, a community of people in the distant northeast of India, in the furthest corner that borders onto Myanmar. And the Wancho people have some wonderful stories. This is the story of the gourd. It is a story of the creation of the first chief. Now the Wanchos, they have a very strong tradition. They always had a very strong tradition of chiefs. And the story goes like this. This here is the hero of the story. His name is Topa. And Topa is an early man. He is a kind of average man. One day there were two brothers who went hunting with their group of friends and supporters. And they hunted far and wide, and they were successful in their hunt. as according to the Wancho tradition, they decided that they had to divide the meat equally amongst them. And as they were standing there and they were arguing and deciding how to divide the meat, according to the traditional customs, Topa emerged from behind a bush. Now Topa, he had been doing his agriculture, his field work. He had been cutting the vegetation and he was clearing the land and he was planning to plant his seeds. And when he saw this hunting party passing across his land, he sprung out from behind the bush and he said, "Stop! Give me too my share. You are on my land." They kind of ignored him. But the last person in the group handed Topa a leaf and a seed and said, "Plant this outside your field hut." Now the field hut is a little hut at the edge of the field where Topa could rest, because the field was quite a long way from his home. So he would go there carrying his basket like this, and he would walk, after he'd eaten his morning meal, he would walk off down to his piece of land where he was growing his rice crop. And in those days, and even today, the way that they do agriculture in the Patkai hills, because it's very hilly and it's very difficult to grow things in such a hilly terrain, what they do is they slash the jungle, they clear away the trees and the bushes, and then they sow the seeds, and in the rains the seeds come up and that's their crop. So this is called the slash and burn technique. And because the fields were quite far away from where Topa lived, his little home, he had built this little field hut. And he had been instructed now by this supernatural hunting party, because they were kind of supernatural beings, to plant this seed outside his field hut, just in front of his field hut. He followed instructions because he was a clever man and he was a man who had some authority, and he wanted to listen to the wise elders who had given him the seed, and he planted the seed outside in front of his hut. And then he carried on his work, and then finally the day came to the end, and he took his little basket, he filled it up with wood and some vegetables, and he went home for the night. Then, the next day, again after his morning meal, he set off down the hill. It was quite a long way to his little patch of land where he was cultivating his crops. He went down the hill with his little basket and his dhow. Now he used his dhow to clear the land, to slash away the jungle, to clear the bushes and the trees with his little dhow. And lo and behold, he got the shock of his life when he reached his little field hut, because this seed was a magical seed, and it had grown and grown and grown over the night. And it had become this huge, great big gourd plant. Now Topa was amazed, he was shocked. He just looked at this gourd plant and he was astounded. But finally he had to get on with his work, so he put down his basket, he took up his dhow, he bent over and he started tilling the land. He started clearing away the vegetation so that he could plant his seed. He started burning the vegetation that he had cut. And as he was doing this, he was so busy and absorbed in what he was doing that he hardly noticed the voice behind him. He started singing his little song. He was humming as he worked, And then he heard this voice humming along with him. This was really a shock. He turned round, there was nobody there. Nobody at all. "Who's there?" he shouted. "Who's there?" came an echo. Again, he looked right and left, but there was nobody. Finally, he saw that the voice had come from the gourd. Now, there were 2 gourds on this magical, great big gourd plant. There were 2 gourds. And he noticed that the voice came from one of the gourds.
Whenever any old people dies in any of our villages, it's like as if a huge library has been burned because of the oral tradition of transmission of stories.
The folk stories of the tribes in India are magical and they are full of hidden meaning. These are stories of creation and of humankind's connection to nature and the supernatural. They are vulnerable and they must not be lost. I set out on the journey of the tales of the tribes to see how these stories can be retold as animated films. On this journey, we will visit storytellers and artists in central and northeast India. The Tales of the Tribes is a series of 5 animated films that were made in India with help from local storytellers, artists, students, and filmmakers. I have put the program into some of the local languages, and I'm going back to screen the films and to find out more about the stories. It's a bit far-fetched to introduce animation to these areas because the basic facilities are lacking. It's one thing to sit in Delhi and talk about local audiences, and it's quite another to actually do it. That's something I've got to keep reminding myself to appreciate. The fact that I'm in this unique moment in this Gallo village.